60.
I mean, look at the data from the Nigeria, not employable, we are underemployed, but this is the first time in the history of this country, I stand to be corrected, where Nigerians are protesting that they are hungry. They are not asking for government, they are not asking government to give them job. They say we don't have food to eat. So that's what the president
All of
or what was accumulated by President Buhari. I laugh because that's the same party. And some of these ministers that are
to a new dispensation regarding work. How people work and the career paths they take differ from generation to generation. There are 5 generations present in the modern workplace, each with unique expectations and perspectives. A person's career path is described as the work they do and the roles they hold as they climb up the ladder. Before the millennium, career paths for many was simply linear, which could be a person working at the same organization and growing there till they retired, or a person working in the same role but changing jobs a couple of times. Security and staying power were the cornerstone of this career path. However, with modern technology, a person's career path can be as multifaceted and versatile as the individual wishes. Millennials now work multiple roles in their career trajectories, pursue numerous passions that are sometimes interwoven, and work at different roles in their journeys. Baby boomers and Generation X only considered a job good if it gave them the security to work there till they retire. But for millennials and Gen Z, the workplace has changed and so has the career structure. Millennials often change their career paths or juggle multiple interests simultaneously. Being able to move from one job to another might signal a person's employability and adaptability. Baby boomers tend to believe that working long hours is what defines success and value face-to-face interactions with co-workers. In contrast, millennials believe that innovation and flexibility are key ingredients for success at work. The shift in occupational structures, for example, the increasing gig economy, is leading to polarization in employment, wages, and inequalities. From remote work policies to virtual leadership, the pandemic changed how we work. The opportunity to telework increased for some, such as knowledge workers, but not for frontline workers. Among the benefits are an improved work-life balance for some, as well as changed attitudes to well-being. Teleworking can lead to a higher productivity and lower operating costs for companies. Work is increasingly flexible and decentralized. Working from home or out of a workspace is favored by many because of the flexibility that comes with it. Millennials and Gen Zs prefer flexible work schedules and part-time hours so that they can balance their work and life compared to older generations who prefer security.
Some people are social people. When they go to the office, they have friends everywhere. Good morning. How was the football match? You just with your colleagues and stuff like that. That social element at work, a lot of people need it. Me personally, I'm an extrovert, but I'm also high on the introverted side. I like going to parties, I like making friends, but I also like keeping to myself. So at work, I'm not the friendliest. I would smile, I would say hi, but I don't need to. So it depends on your personality and what you need. For me, work from home works a lot for me because I get to spend time with my family. I'm always in the house with my partner, and that really makes me happy.
I was just calm. I just kept calm, like, okay, let's see what's going to happen next. And they were there that night till at about 11 or 12 late in the night. And then they brought a bus. So they packed all of us. The bus was empty, like they had removed everything inside the bus. They made us sit. We sat in the bus and we drove. So we drove for a couple of hours. I can't remember how many hours, but like close to 7 hours. So on daybreak, I saw where we got to was like a house, very big house, gated, fenced and all that. And they just dropped us there and turned back. So I was surprised, like, So for the first time, and I had to ask the 4 ladies, the 3 other ladies that we left together, please, do you guys really know where exactly we are going to? Like, this whole thing is really looking blurry to me and I don't understand anything anymore. And they're like, even them too, they are even confused though. And to crown it up, they asked us not to talk to each other. They asked us not to say anything to each other. I don't understand. So I just looked everywhere and saw that, okay, there are batches and batches of people seated at different corners. Okay, so I really need to ask questions. So at that point, one Alhaji came out, like he's one in charge of that house, and then he did say, okay, let's look for something to eat. All through this while we are not eating, and tell me what exactly is going on. And tell me what exactly is going on. Where am I, first of all? He said, Duruku. I said, where is Duruku? He now said, how do I expect him to be able to explain that? That Duruku, that is what he knows, this place is Duruku. I said, okay, do you know where exactly I'm going to? Or do you know the person that brought me here? He was like, maybe Libya you did go. I said, Libya. I said, I'm not going to Libya. He said, I still say you be Johnny just come. Like, he said, you don't reach here. The only thing now for you make you they go the place where then they carry you, they go say then go come carry you on tomorrow night. And he refused to say anything afterwards. So I went to sit down and relayed what he said to the other ladies. And everybody became very, very, very like upset and curious, like, okay, let's even find out. So just at that time, there was a lady in the particular room that had like 5 big bags, Ghana must go bags, big ones. So she said she was going back to Kano, that she stays in Kano. She sells gold and clothes. She speaks Yoruba. So she was explaining to one of the ladies. So that was the first instance where I started hearing information. And I just didn't want to believe. Honestly, I didn't believe at that point that maybe that is what we are in. But what she explained to the lady was that we are either being transported to Libya for prostitution or Italy. And then the lady said, she told her that no, the person that took us said we are going to Malaysia. And the lady now laughed and said that is what they will tell you. And that this is her 5th time going through this route. That was the same way she was deceived. But she ran away and was able to find someone who helped her, and eventually that was the person she got married to, and now they are doing like illegal business. She goes there, buys stuff, and goes back to Kano to go sell. So I said, no, it cannot be possible. Like, we all agreed that it cannot be possible, because that was not what they told us. Looking at what the first guy told us, what the magician guy told us, what the lady told us, that it cannot be possible, that maybe hers is a different kind of connection. So fast forward from there, they came to pick us the next night in a Hilux, arranged us, and we drove for like 3 days non-stop. Okay, we had 2 stopovers. The first stopover was in a very cold, white place. Like, I have never seen that kind of cold in my life before. I was shivering to the brain. Like, I just couldn't imagine why I was going through this. Like, if these people really want to help me, this is not a way to help someone. You cannot be helping someone and the person is in pain. So, but I couldn't really say much because I was already in it. So we drove for days, and on the 3rd day where we stopped, where we stopped was really looking like I didn't know what to call the place. There were thousands of people, young ladies, guys, and they were calling it ghetto. This is ghetto. They were calling the particular ghetto. The ghetto had a name, and they said, okay, now we can go and have our bath. So for the first time after 7 days, 8 days, we're going to have our bath and have change of clothes. So first of all, my concern was to even just let me even have a bath first and find something tangible to eat. So they made rice, we ate. In the midst of eating, I started hearing conversations. So I said, okay, since they said we should not talk to anybody, no problem. I'm going to find out everything I need to find out, and if possible, go back from here. So during conversations, I heard people saying, they will tell you everything possible, that here it is Libya they're taking you to. You either go and work as a housemaid, or you go and work in connection house, all manner of things. And at that point, it really dawned on me that what that lady had said earlier was very true. So the other 3 ladies, 2 of them now came to meet me when I was sitting down. I like, see what I am hearing. I said, okay, even me too. I heard the same thing. And we're like, are we sure we want to continue this journey? So at that point, I was really upset with myself not to have verified whatever information I got. I started crying. I was in pain. Like, why will I be going through this? Like, no. Even if, for crying out loud, this is not help. This is like putting me in a pit where I can't talk, I can't communicate. Now there is no communication, nothing. So I looked around. We were there till the next day, and then there was this particular guy, Mohammed, that was giving out clothes, was calling out names and all. So I walked up to him and said, please, at this junction, I don't think I want to continue this journey. Can you help me? I want to go back home. And then he said, that what I just asked is very dangerous. That if it was yesterday when I came that I said that it would have been, maybe you can manage or think of how to go about it. That already the person that I'm being taken to knows I'm here. Whatever makes me not get to her, he has to be the one to pay for me. I'm like, pay for me as how? He said, somebody paid for you to be brought to her, and pay transit, they pay additional money just to be sure that the person is being carried along. And I was like, okay, so how much does it cost to get up to this point? And if I'm to go back from here, I can actually call them, tell them I don't want to continue this journey and I want to go back home. He said it's either of 2 things. It's either you get home or you don't get home. They might tell you to go. They'll either kidnap you and sell you to a place where you'll never be able to come out from, or they might even kill you. That he would advise me to just go and face my fate, but I should pray that whoever I'm going to go and meet is not a bad person. And I asked that, why did he say so? He said he cannot say anything more. That I'm here, and the only way forward is to move forward. I was like, okay. I was broken. I couldn't even tell the other ladies what he had said. I summoned courage to eventually see. So that night, they put us in a hillock. We're about 36 or 32 of us. And they made us sit in rows in the hillocks. So we drove for like 3 days. We had a couple of stopovers, but I was really choked up because I was seated back in the hillocks. So everybody's weight was resting on me, and it was hell for me. I couldn't breathe at some point. My legs were dead. I couldn't move. Even when we stopped, I took like minutes. Most of us took like minutes to even be able to stand up. And I was like, no. But even if I were to travel by road, he did say it was going to be at some point. At least by now, the traveling by road should have stopped. And that was so I remembered what the other guy said at the where we were, that there's no flight, anything. They deceived you. Everything they told you was just to cajole you to decide to go, that there is no flight anywhere, you're going by road to wherever you're going to. So at that point, I was just concerned with one thing, which is surviving and coming back home at all cost. So after the first stopover, I became sick a little bit. I started having too many issues. So I decided not to sit in the hillocks again. And then I had to sit at the edge on top of the tire box. And then I had a stick in between my legs. So they made ladies sit inside the hillocks, and then the guys would sit around the hillocks. But because of my previous experience, I had difficulties breathing. I said I wasn't going to sit inside the hillocks again, that I was going to sit at the edge. So I did sit on the edge of the hillocks and had a stick to hold on to, and we drove for another couple of days. The experience in the desert was, it's not sometimes when I think about it, I just smile. My smiling is not that, okay, I'm happy, but I wonder how I was able to pull through. I wonder how I was able to manage my health. I wonder how I was able to cope up mentally, emotionally, thinking about everything I had left back at home, everyone. I kept them in the dark. I didn't really say much. And then thinking about the people who deceived me, like, if you want to help someone, you should help someone and not even put them into more problems. So a lot of things were racing through my mind. I got so discouraged at my own life. I felt really bad that I was impatient. I didn't ask questions. Of all places, why would I be going to Libya to do what? Like, I wasn't even, I couldn't really define the feelings I had then. But at each point, what I always did was to just pray to God that, God, I know that I have done wrong not to have even, look out for my own self. But I am asking for just one thing. Wherever I'm going to, make sure you take me back home, healed and healthy. So we had another stopover. I got beaten along the way by Arab men. I was trying to save someone from getting beaten wrongly, and I got the beating. Difficulty, there was no food, there was no water, the weather was, the sun would be shining and scorching, and the cold was extremely cold. Like, I couldn't really, there was no definition of everything that was going on. I was just bleak and blank. At the point, I was regretting every step from my friend. I started cursing, like, so she knew about this. That was why at the point she disappeared. She didn't really see anything. And even when I was sitting, and the hillocks, the speed at which the hillocks was moving was really high. It wouldn't stop. At a point, a guy fell off the hillocks and they didn't wait. The drivers were so mean. We don't understand their language, they don't understand our language. So even when you're beckoning on them to say, oh, something is going on. There was a time a guy was throwing up. He was feeling, okay, I think he was about throwing up. So we're like, okay, maybe if he stops. We tried beckoning on them, and if they come out, the next thing they do is to probably hit you with something, saying all manner of languages we didn't understand. We couldn't speak to them, they couldn't speak to us. It was hell for me. So because my laps were peeled, I couldn't sit again. So I now stood behind the pavement of the main hillocks box. And then that journey was for 5 days. 5 days of cold, 5 days, as in I couldn't breathe. Like at some point, I would just cry and scream out loud. Like, I wish the sky could even feel my pain. Like, there was no definition to what I was going through. And I just kept crying and crying and crying. After crying, I'll console myself. You're just crying. You see, everybody here, they also have one reason to cry. So they cannot shoulder you and tell you sorry. So you alone will have to shoulder your pain. And that hurt me so bad. Sometimes when people see me talk about the story and I'm not really showing so much emotions, they feel, oh, we're not too sure you went through this. I have said it like 1,000,001 times. is something I went through, and I can imagine how I had to just tell myself that, come, you have a child back home that you love. You need to be alive to come back to her. That was my source of strength. And the life I really wanted for myself ever before embarking on that journey just kept me going, that I know one day I am going to eventually come back and say this story to people. So at that point, remembering and recalling everything, one question kept popping in my head: why will people not have any other thing to do other than to do a business where you transport people to an unknown country, you lie to them, you deceive them, you promise them heaven and earth, and then put them on a dangerous path where is either they make it or they don't make it, and you will not even tell them any of this. So I was bent on making it to wherever it is. I said to myself, no matter how wicked whoever it is I'm going to go and meet is, I'm going to come back home and know the reason why people really did this business. On getting to Sabah, Sabah is halfway into Libya. On getting to Sabah, we had a connection house where they put us. We met about 60 ladies in the room, and then the guys also had their room. And they kept adding us. They kept adding. And at a point, I counted, we were about 80 in that room, the ladies' room. The guys were about 40-something. The food was really bad. You know, having to make banku. Now, this is not even the original banku. This is the banku made with flour. Having to make flour like fufu. And then maybe they'll serve like 20 plates down. And then everybody will now line up. By the time you're eating, it's as though you're eating stone, you're swallowing stone. The soup was so watery that you're not... The very first day I was asking myself, like, I know I had challenges back at home, but my challenges were not so bad that I couldn't even eat a good meal. Like, this is not a meal. So the first day we had that in the night. The next day we had rice, very small portion of the rice was dried. You can imagine when you boil rice and then you open it, you put it in a plate and you just open it down. And because the weather is very cold, so anything you don't keep properly dries up. So by the time you're eating the rice and like it's like you're eating rubber. So at some point we just sit there crying out that no, this is not life. This is not, why are we having to go through this? I would cry every night. I would beg God that please, can I just vanish from here? Okay, at the point I was begging for death to come because it wasn't funny. It wasn't funny. And within ourselves, some girls were like, they were really radical about it, and they were like, no, we need to tell them. It's either they change the way they are doing this food, or maybe we should even take up the cooking by ourselves. So I thought of it. I was like, okay, that's true. So if already I'm going through hell and then food now has to be a problem. So we waited for the ghetto man, the person in charge of the ghetto, like we waited for him to come. We kept shouting, when is he coming? When is he coming? We don't even know why we are here. We don't even know what we are doing here. So at that time we had stayed a week. We don't know why we are being kept here. We don't know who even put us here. We don't even know anything. Nobody is saying anything. So when the connection man did come, we took turns to ask questions. I noticed everybody was just asking questions. Where are we going to? Where are we going to? And all. So I did ask him. I said, okay, first of all, why are we here? Do you have an answer, or do you know the reason why we are here? And then he said, you are here because you're being transported to your burger. And then we now asked, what is the meaning of a burger? He said a burger is a person that paid for you to be transported from Nigeria. So we're like, is that the reason why we are being given bad food? Like when you're given something to swallow and it's already hurting your throat, like practically almost everybody had sore throat from that banku. and it was like, okay, he doesn't know anything about the way the food was being prepared, but that this place is just a transit, and the reason why we are here is because the road is bad, there is war, and they cannot transport us. It's very risky, and that we might meet rebels on the way, and rebels, they either rape, kill, abduct. And we're like, okay, so for how long are we going to be here? He said, doesn't know until the war is over. So if it takes 1 month, if it takes 2 months, but just know that for every food you are eating, for every extra thing you collect here, your money is piling up. It is your burger that is paying, and when you get to wherever you're going to, you will have to work to pay your burger back. So we now, 5 of us volunteered to be cooking our food by ourselves, and we were there for extra 2 weeks and some days. In total, we were there for 3 weeks and 5 days. So we were somewhere, we were kept in a particular house where they locked us. There was no light, nothing. And then we were pressed. We had traveled, we had drove for like 2 days, and they put us there. So, but before we entered, we were already beckoning on this people that we want to ease, we want to ease. They didn't even want to listen. They were just pushing us like, how can you just be pushing somebody like animals? We don't even know where we're going. Like, this is very unthinkable. So I held that urine for good 2 days. So the next morning when they came, now see they begging that, please, we want to wee. So the man was, arrogantly, he was talking, and he went to get a gallon, like this aluminum gallon. We now looked at it that, how a guy can pee in this, but how can a lady pee in this? And from the descriptions he was giving us, he meant that we shouldn't allow the pee to spill on the floor. So we said, okay, all the guys should pee first, and the ladies would take turns to pee, which was what happened. And somehow pee actually spilled. So by the time he was coming back, when he opened the door, so the pee, pee wouldn't, and you can imagine pee that stayed, the smell, it was awful. He was angry. He went back, he went to get a stick, and he was holding like 3 different things. So I was wondering, what does this guy want to do? At that point, everybody had their heart in their mouth, because the moment you see them holding anything, they can hit you anywhere. They can hit you anywhere. So he was now asking who spilled pee on the floor. They were pointing to the wrong person. So I was just watching initially. They were pointing to and he was going to start beating her. So I was not like trying to say, no, she wasn't the one. You see, when that spring landed on my head, this spring they use in water closet. Very strong and thick. And all I knew that was going on was that I was screaming at the top of my voice with both hands on my head, because it actually hit me on my head. And when I gave birth, like 8 months, when I was 8 months pregnant, I fell in the bathtub and had a slit on my head from the tiles in the bathroom. So sometimes that part of the head still hurts. So when he hit that spring on my head, it was exactly on that spot, and he did it like 3 times. He kept hitting the spring on me. I remember crying till I didn't know what was going on. And for the first time, when they say people have transition, I always wonder. I knew I was just lost somewhere. I knew something was going on to my body. I didn't know where I was. I didn't know what. I was just blank. But I could hear myself crying. And I was just crying, as in, bitter tears. You cry bitter tears, and you just have to still be the one to tell yourself, you have to stop. So by the time I woke up, the other ladies were like, you need to see the way they were rejoicing, because they said they didn't believe I was going to still come back to life. The head was actually bleeding at that point. And at that point when I woke up, they had cleaned it, they had tried everything. I remember when they were pouring water on me. I remember when somebody was tapping me and everything, and I was like, they started explaining what actually happened. That the moment he hit that spring on my head the second time, I started screaming, and they noticed I was bleeding, and I cried, and I just went mute. And they were telling him that she's not talking, and the man just told them bara, 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 and they went away. He said they were praying, they were begging God that this girl must not die. She has been like a source of strength to us. If she dies here, what's going to happen and all that. It actually took me 4 to 5 hours before I woke up. And at that point, I had lost strength, I had lost everything. So there was a lady we met in that place that had a phone. So that was the first time I had to beg her. I'm sure it was because as a result of what had happened, she did not allow any other person use her phone. They would normally not allow you use their phones. So I couldn't even tell my mom what I was going through, because there's no how she would hear my voice like that and not panic. And I know the kind of mother I have. So I called my boss that I had worked with in the FRSC and told him, this is what has happened to me. And I don't even know where. Yeah, we're in Trauna at that time. And he said, but why didn't you say anything before leaving? And then I told him that they told us not to say anything. The moment they say don't say anything, you should have known it was trafficking. I know that you're naive and you do not know anything, but you should have told me. Because he was now like a father to me. Even after I had stopped working with the FRSC then, he was like a father to me. He said he was going to try his best to see what he can do, but that still being on transit, there is probably little or nothing he can do at that point. So I'm sure he tried calling back, because the lady kept cutting a particular call. I wouldn't know, and I didn't want to disturb her. So at that point, I really cried. I cried. That was the only thing I could do. I just cried. Like, I have never suffered like this in my life before. Even if I'm to suffer anything, it shouldn't be suffering from a decision to have a better life. So long and short was, we got into Libya and they kept hiding us. They lay us in hillocks, cover, life leaving you, you're sniffing each other's air, and you know, in the midst of all of this, some people will be fighting and quarreling and beating themselves. You know, I just couldn't imagine why. And even in that, some people decided they wanted to go do this thing, like they wanted to travel this way. I didn't know anything like this existed. I didn't know anything of such even happens. Finding myself in it was like the biggest dream I never wished to have again. So, found ourselves in Libya, and the first thing they did, seeing Nigerian girls and women, I was like, okay, so finally, we have gotten to our destination. So, what's next? Entering that house, I knew this is going to be a big problem for me. Because already I was upset. I was ready to yell at anybody. And then the first thing they made us do was to strip ourselves. I was like, okay. So I did remember at some point in the journey where a particular guy, we met him somewhere, and he also gave us a hint of how it actually goes. He said they're taking you to the garage. And then I now asked, what is the garage? He said the garage is a place where they take Nigerian girls to. And that's the most common place that they take them to. And they're going to take you to the connection house. And what they do normally in the connection house is sex trade. So I said, no, I'm not going to do that one. He said, you will not have a choice. He said, they'll make life hell for you. You will not have a choice. So he now said that if eventually I get there and that is what it is, that I have an option to run away. But that is very risky. And then he did give me his number and said that I must not write that number anywhere. That if they see that number with me, they will beat the living daylight out of me, because they will know that I have contacted the burger as well. So he made me cram that number two of us, we crammed that number to be sure that we didn't forget the number. But you see all the experiences we went through afterwards. At a point, I couldn't even remember the number anymore. And then I remember what he said. He said, you just have to help yourself remain strong. And while they asked us to strip ourselves, I was like, for whatever reason, I'm coming to work for someone. Why would you ask me to strip myself? So they said this. They were searching. Maybe you have a number written somewhere in form of a tattoo, or maybe you wrote the number somewhere and you hid it in your clothes, or anything. They just wanted to be sure you didn't have any information whatsoever. They collected my phone, went through my phone, and that night they called us one after the other. So, what were you doing in Nigeria? And then I explained, and the man said, okay, now this is the woman and her husband. The man said, okay, I can see. And then the first question he asked me was, what are you doing here? And I'm like, I was dumb. Like, he said, you have something good doing. What are you doing here? I said, it was a friend though, that said there's traveling opportunity, and said, there's no need to explain. You are here, you are here. Oh, no choice near. Your own is to make sure you work on time and pay and get out of here. So the wife now asked, what did they tell you that you're coming here to do? I said, first of all, this is not where they told me I'm coming to, and they told me I'm going to be working in a hair factory and a restaurant. And then she laughed and said, that is not it. That this is what they do here. That did I see all those other girls outside? I said, yes. He said, what do you think they are doing? I said, I don't really know, but I saw a couple of girls sitting down. He said, they're working for their money. He said, that is the same thing you're going to do. And I was like, I don't understand. He said, yes, that's the same thing you're going to do. So the earlier, the better for you. I bluntly refused, because this is that wasn't what I was told in Nigeria. And for no reason, why would I leave Nigeria to come to Libya, to come and prostitute with my body to make money? How much money do I want to make? So I felt I was doing myself good by trying to be as open as possible. I was very plain and blunt, and then she just kept laughing. I was like, but yeah, nobody will tell you. So she said, okay. And the same thing with every other girls, because we had agreed that, okay, if eventually we find out that that is what we're actually being taken there to do, that we are not going to agree to it, because that was not the agreement. And for whatever reason, we cannot just decide to leave Nigeria and go and prostitute somewhere. So she was like, she knows that girls that they just bring from Nigeria are very stubborn, that she will give us 3 days to go and decide. But in that 3 days, we should be watching at the other girls to see how they actually go about what they do. And the first day went by, second day went by. I vowed to myself, I said, nowhere in heaven's name will I live this kind of a life. Like, it was so absurd. I was grieved, I was bitter, I was angry, all manner of words, because looking at all the experience in the journey, I almost died, and then all for what? To come here and come and use my body to work to pay someone. I'm like, it didn't make sense. I cried every minute I remembered. And on the third day, she did call us to ask us if we were ready. I told her that she has to look for another job for me. And then she said, okay, since I don't want to take it easy, since I don't want to take it the easy way, that they'll show me how they also go the hard way. So that night, we didn't even know what she meant. That night, a girl was brought in, and we watched more than 5 people beat that girl black and blue. Wow. She had also refused the connection house where she was taken to. She had also refused to do the same connection house job. It was actually a burger that brought her, but they took her somewhere else. So they said she was being stubborn where she is, or where she was, and then they brought her back to the Bogada. Madam, come and take your girl, give us back our money. She said she know they work. They beat that girl to stupor. They beat her to the point where I sat where I was and I told myself, I said it out, like, these people are not humans. Like, why? On seeing the way they beat that lady, I was like, so I will also come to this point where they will have to beat me to say, yes, I will do it. I said I would rather die. Because at the point when they beat her, she was like, okay, Mashi, I will do it, I will work, I will do it. I was like, so this is what I will go through. So for some reasons, I didn't know, they took the other 3 ladies out of where I was. It was now left with only me in that house that came together. So after a week, she then asked me that, what else can I do? I said, I cook. She was like, okay. She gave me pepper and oil. I said, go and make stew with it. I made the stew. She told them to teach me how to make banku. I made the banku. She was like, okay, not bad for a start. So first of all, your first job here is you're going to be cooking for everybody. My heart was like, okay, finally she has agreed to give me something else. So another week went by and she said, Orobo, I don't know where one day she just called me by that name and said, for her, that is what she will be calling me. Although she gave me another name, Success. So everybody calls me Success, but she calls me Orobo. And then she looked at me and said, Orobo, are you ready to work now? I was dumbfounded and I couldn't say anything. And in my head, I was like, if it is to die here, I think I'm ready to do that. But to use my body here, I will not. So 3 weeks went down. And all of these weeks, nobody even came in one day to say, this person, how she be, who she be, and all. So after the 3rd week, a man came in, a matured Nigerian man, a Yoruba man. He came in and did ask to take me home. And at first she refused, that she wasn't going to let him take me home, but he begged and all of that. So when we got home, he sat me down and said, I didn't bring you here to come and sleep with you. I brought you here to teach you one lesson that will help you if you must live where you are. He said he noticed the way I was being questioned, the way I was being bullied and all that. That is the way the woman does. And that I'm even still seeing the better side of her. That she's a really, really hard person. And when she's ready to go hard, she goes all the way. He said, you see where you are, there's no shortcut. There is no way out other than for you to actually make money, pay them before you leave. And if you are not even careful, you'll be done paying them, you will not know, you'll still be there playing a fool, working for them. So you have to be smart. I see that you are innocent, but then yet you are smart. So I need you to wake up that smart instinct in you and know what to do to live there as soon as possible. He said he was going to be going to Italy in 3 weeks. From that time, that was the reason why the woman refused to give me to him initially, because normally that is the way some men will come there, take girls and they run away with them and they don't eventually get their money. So he said, but he's going to teach me how to make it fast. That if I work with my body to pay them, they'll split that money in 2. But if I'm doing something extra to pay them, they would record the money just the way it is. Say, for example, I sleep with someone and the man pays me 5,000 naira. They're not recording 5,000 naira. They're recording 2,500. But if maybe I sell something or I save up money and I give them that same 5,000 naira cash at hand, they'll record the 5,000 naira for me. So the best for me is to think of something I can start doing to get extra money, which is begging. So when these guys come, I have to beg them for extra penny. Or if they ask for anything beyond what I'm supposed to give them, like in normal duty, then I should ask for extra cash. Those extra cash are the extra stipends I'm supposed to be saving up to give them. I cried my ass out that night. So he said, you see, she's even giving you grace. He said, it's because she likes you. That this woman, she's naturally not the patient type, and the moment you're proving hard, she'll go hard with you and you'll give up. So the earlier the better for you. But he felt that he should just reach out to me and teach me something that would help me. So I eventually spent 2 years and 9 months in Libya altogether. I spent a year and 8 months in the Connection House, and that a year and 8 months was hell for me. So after 7 months, I tried reaching out. So at the point they released a phone for the girls in the house to call their customers, to know when they're coming, to know if you're having someone who is coming to come and sleep with you over, or someone who is going to come and take you out and all. So I begged one of the girls in charge one day to allow me buy airtime on the phone to call. So I did call my dad, and my dad was really bitter, and he said the only way he knows I can get out of that place is for me to find my way to the Nigerian embassy and tell them that I want to come back home. So I waited for 3 days to actually get that report, because he didn't know what to do at that point. He said, okay, can I call you back? So I said, I don't know, but I'll try and talk to the person in charge of this phone so that whenever you call, they give me the call to answer, which was what actually happened. And somehow, I don't know how they got to know, but they found out that I called the Nigerian embassy, and they beat hell out of my life. They beat hell, everybody in the house. Plus, at that time, my burger wasn't in Libya at that time. She was in Nigeria. It was the husband that was at home then. The husband beat me. All the girls in the house beat me, so I wanted to run away. Oh, I'm trying to be smart and this and that. After all, they knew that from the very first day I came, the woman was calling me a virus because she knows that I'm kind of smart. I will try to play smart. So from that time, they locked me out from phone. They stopped allowing me go out. It was I can't start recounting experiences, day-to-day activities, how I felt. At some point, I would just practically pray that, God, please, when I sleep this night, don't allow me wake up in the morning. I slept very late, and I'm always the first to wake up. So after a while, I started gaining confidence, like, no, even if I foolishly allowed myself into this, I should be able to still bring myself out of it. So I changed my attitude and started being very smart. I called up as much information as I could. I got to, I became very nice. I always learned lessons, and, I was trying my possible best to see beyond the problem I was in and was already thinking of a way out. So I had a couple of guys who would just naturally like me, and they would tell me, you see, when you're ready to leave this place. Some guys went as far as asking, okay, madam, how much is this girl's money? Let's pay. She would intentionally double the money and make them run away. So when she did that the first time, the second time, I just knew that, okay, so this woman is actually being wicked. But not to worry, I'm actually still going to live here. So when it was about a year and 5 months, I sat down one day and calculated how much I had paid, minus all the subtraction. If you do anything, she'll beat you and subtract your money. Maybe 50 dinars, maybe 100. If you quarrel with anybody, maybe 200 dinars. If you fight, maybe 500 dinars and all. So by the time I calculated and I saw that the money had gotten up to like 5,000 dinars, which was actually what that man told me. He said normally it's supposed to be 2,500 dinars, but burgers are always wicked. They want to collect even double of that. So sometimes you have to pay up to like 5,000 to 6,000 dinars before they will let you go. And some will still not let you go, except you fight for your freedom. So when I calculated, and I had calculated about 7,000 dinars, I was like, okay, I think my time here is up. And then I started asking for freedom. She initially refused and said that I was not done paying her. So I said, okay. So in 2016, when she was going to come to Nigeria in September, she gave me freedom in August. That was a year and 8 months. She said, okay, that now I am free to work for my own money. But whatever money you're working, the same way they were splitting in two, it's just that this other half now, instead of them collecting it, they'll give it to you. Sometimes they may not even give it to you. They'll tell you to keep it with them. Maybe you want to send some money to Nigeria. So I said, okay, no, that I didn't want to keep it with them, that I actually wanted to live there. She said, I cannot live there until she comes back. I have to wait for her to come back to Libya because she had had a new child and she wanted to come home. I said, okay. So throughout that month, that September, I kept having dreams that if I don't leave that place, I probably might not have my life again. The dream came like about 5 to 6 times, and then I just summoned courage to open up to the husband, to tell him that I think I'm very sick and I want to go take care of myself. This is about a year and 9 months now. From the day one up until now, I worked every day and slept nothing more than 3 to 4 hours, that I needed to take care of myself. And he understood with me because several times in between, I had fallen sick, like so bad, that at some point it took drips to like resuscitate me back and all. And the man also knew that I was very, very hardworking. Like at the point, he would always tell the wife, stop beating this girl. Like, you need to stop, even if you're beating every other person, but you see this one, stop beating her. And the next thing is, she will say, oh, okay, so now you're sleeping with my husband. My husband is fighting for you. This, that. I know you are hardworking, but you must be sleeping with my husband for him to be fighting me to stop beating you. And then she will intensify whatever thing she was doing. So, but I kept bearing them up. At that point, I made up my mind. So there's this Ghanaian guy who had already told me that whenever I'm ready, that he had an apartment he doesn't really stay in, that he goes to the village to work. Sometimes he doesn't come home 2-3 months, that he could give his space up for me to stay there, take care of myself. So when I did mention to him that I wanted to go and that I was sick, he did say, okay, that I should call the wife and tell her, which I did. And then she was like, so I cannot wait for her to come back. I told her that no, I can't wait, that I'm very, very sick and I needed to go take care of myself. She said, okay, I should hand over the account to the husband and I can leave, which I did. That was in October 2016. I did that in October 2016. In November, sorry, that was November 2016. I did that in November 2016. I had barely stayed a month in the new house where I was staying. I'd stayed a month and I was taking treatment, eating well and all that. And I heard she came back. She did actually call me to come and cook for her, but I refused going. And then on the 2nd of January in 2017, there was a massacre in the garage. The massacre was bloody. I think they were counting 300 bodies and they were still counting as at the time we got the news. The bombing and from where I was, it's not so far a distance, it's a bit far. We could hear the bombs, we could hear the gunshots. Part of the things we face like every day, you don't sleep, like gunshots. There are some bombs that you practically feel like the house is going to be uprooted from the ground. There was a day that we were running and a stray bullet passed by my side, brushed my leg. Like, I don't know how I escaped. I don't know how I escaped, but you know, it was just God that was just protecting me all through. And at that point in January, when that massacre happened, like 6 girls in that house actually died. And for me, I felt, oh, this is God just saving me. I guess this is what God was talking to me about when I kept seeing those dreams, and I made up my mind I was going to just go back home. 2 months out of there, I called a friend and told her that if there was a way she could help me find money, I needed to come back home. And she was the one that told me about the voluntary return, that I needed to find my way to the UN's office or whichever way and all that. So I remembered contacting the Nigerian embassy. So I did keep the number. So I then asked questions because I was now going to a church. I then asked questions and they said, okay, that I needed to get to the IOM office. I had challenges locating them in the first place, but eventually I got to the IOM office and then they gave me a date to come back to visit. I did drop all my information and then they said, okay, that in 2 weeks' time I should go to the Nigerian embassy to go get a travel document. And after getting a travel document, they will not let me know when to come back and I'll be ready to go to Nigeria. So that was all. And up until then, I just kept managing, kept believing God that it was going to work well. And eventually it did work well, and that was how I came back to Nigeria. August 28th in 2017. And for me, that was the best decision I could make, though it was painful that I just went to suffer my life out for almost 3 years and no gain, nothing, and then I'm back, having to come back empty-handed. And up until today, both the travel agent, both the guy that introduced me to the travel agent and the lady, none of them has been found. And life hasn't been easy getting back to my feet. Like, I was in bad depression for like almost 2 years. It was really bad coming back to see that, okay, first of all, I have lost money, I have lost friends, I have lost business, and then having to resume my motherly duties almost immediately because children wouldn't hear, oh, I had a bad experience. And then having to reintegrate back into the community, it was really difficult. Like, it just took the grace of God, and it took my kind of strong personality to just keep resuscitating me, and I just kept believing that I'll definitely be who I really wanted to be. I didn't really need to think about the pain, but then the lesson can never be forgotten. The experience can never be forgotten. The trauma, the pain, and everything can never be forgotten. But then one thing can be done, which is moving ahead and making use of all the experiences. And then I did find answers to my quest as to why people did trafficking as a business. And I think that apart from poor economy, some people are just ignorant and they don't really care. They just can do anything just to make money.
Reading is an essential habit and a culture that must be developed. Nigerians are generally believed to have a poor reading culture. The role of government in promoting reading and equipping reading spaces and libraries in Nigeria cannot be underestimated. But first, we must look at the development of reading habits from the home and the role parents play in encouraging their children.
My parents, my mom used to be a teacher, so reading was obviously part of a curriculum. And then my father used to be a professor and is an author. So I started reading very, very early, and I started reading books that were higher than my age grade. I was reading African Writer series from age 7, age 8, and reading encyclopedias by that time. So obviously my parents had a huge part and encouraged that in me.
In the Nigerian book market, there's a high influx of foreign authors writing for children, but very few Nigerian authors telling relatable, homegrown Nigerian stories.
If you start out reading stories even to your baby, even before they're 1, and then as they get older, buy appropriate materials that are colorful, with easy to read words, and read with them. I think that helps.
Adedotun Enyade, a co-founder of Robin Heights, a leading bookstore in Nigeria, has tips for Nigerian authors and how they can improve on their work and get into the hearts of readers.
The story has to be good, right? If you're writing, whatever you're writing, if you're writing fiction, if you're writing non-fiction, it has to be like, really, really compelling, one. The next thing would be like in terms of like the packaging, right? people have gone past the era where you just take your books to just about any printer to print for you. I think, publishers, self-published authors as well, they need to invest in ensuring that the quality of the book, the final output is one that would stack up with any book published elsewhere in the world. So that's really important. Then I think what would be like the most important tip for me to them would be just they need to invest in marketing.
The book business, like any other business, is challenging.
If you ask anyone who's running the business in Nigeria, they will tell you capital, of course, right? It's. Book selling is also, as with any other business, is also quite capital intensive. Getting to pay your rent, getting to actually buy the books and stock up your shelves when you have them. Hiring good people requires decent amount of capital. So I would say it's getting the startup funds to set up something, and then if you're looking to do it at scale like we're hoping to do, then it also requires you raising funding, which isn't readily available in commercial banks, right? I don't think a bank would say they want to give you a loan to set up a bookstore. They probably will be skeptical about the number of people who read. So for us, I think it's just I would say capital is at the top of a totem pole.
It is commendable that certain individuals and organizations are making concerted efforts to revive the reading culture in the country. The government should also redesign the school curriculum to incorporate more reading activities in primary and secondary schools.
Hello, welcome to this edition of our program, Timeless Conversations. Today, my guest is a broadcast producer, broadcaster. He is also a pastor now. And then he's an avid sports lover, avid football fan. He is one of the backbones of the Superstars Fans Club. That's Fans of Stationaries Stores Football Club.
Ime James is a producer, broadcaster, journalist, writer, and sports lover. He is one of the backbones of the Superstars Fans Club. He was formerly with the Nigerian Television Authority. He studied drama at the University of Ife. After leaving NTA, Ime started his independent production company. He produced the first fashion and beauty show on Nigerian television called New Trends. It was an overnight hit. Ime James credits Eddie Iron and Soji Oyinsan for his grounding in television production. This background was pivotal in his decision to go solo and found his independent production company.
Please welcome with me Eliashib Ime James. You're welcome.
Thank you very much for having me.
I didn't put the title pastor.
It's okay.
Because normally now it's Ime, Lekon between us. So putting titles kind of distances you.
That's right.
Right. Now, I recall that in those days, you were a producer on NTA, ex-NTA. So what was that like for you?
Well, it was a beautiful life. I had always wanted to become a journalist when I was in primary school because I started writing for the then Crystalib.
Okay.
As a child journalist for the
What primary school was that?
I went to Tinu Primary School, Surulere. Okay. Very close to the old Kalakuta Republic.
Okay, okay.
So you see my affinity with the shrine.
Okay.
So I had always wanted to become a journalist. So from my childhood, I would go to the newspaper stand and I would read Punch, read newspaper. As a child, even before the war, I was reading Drum magazine.
Okay.
That's to tell you how far, and that shaped my opinion and my mindset. I was able to follow what was happening around. So when I grew up, I did a few courses in Ife. We were doing training in dramatic arts. And, okay. So we had this drama group at the National Museum that was called Gongon Cultural Artists.
Okay, that's where you and Tunde Election Lawyer connected.
Yes. I was Tunde's director.
Yes.
You know, we used to call him Spin Round.
Yes.
You know, so Soji Onyison and Eddie Iro came to the museum to look for, I think, to ease themselves out. And this was 1979. And they met me directing my people. And it was so professional the way I was doing it.
Yeah.
I had read about the director's cigar. You know, the director's cigar was on film. Okay, but I brought it down to the stage. So
stage, yes.
I will look for cigar, not cigarette. I look for cigar, light it, and as I'm puffing, I'm telling no, move it this way, move it. So they came and they saw me and they were so impressed about this young man that is doing. So they invited me to NTA. I got employed, and it was a beautiful thing because I got involved in so many training. It was at NTA that I went to Times Institute of Journalism.
Okay.
You know, so this was a beautiful time with me.
But you know, in those days, production was a lot more hands-on.
Yeah.
Equipment were minimal.
Yes.
Right. A great deal of
a great deal of your intellect.
Yes, intellect, intuition, and all of that.
Yes.
These days, do you still get involved with production?
Not so much these days because my hands are really, really full.
Yeah.
However, as the media communication head of Christ Embassy some years back,
yes,
I had the honor of establishing the newsroom, the news agency. So I was involved in production. But even at that time, between that time and now, production facilities has also evolved.
Yes.
Tremendously. Again, when it comes to the technicalities, directing and all that, of course, I'm hands-on. I know what to tell you. I know what to do. But in terms of technically handling the cameras, in those days I could handle any camera.
Yeah.
I could edit on any platform. You know, but today many platforms are there, and because of my pastoral responsibilities, I do not have time to do all that now.
Okay, pastoral responsibility. Was that why you left NTA?
No, I was actually retrenched.
Oh, you were?
Yes.
Okay.
I was in 1985. I got caught up in the power tussle between my bosses. So when my boss went to the Guardians, he went to the Guardian to start the Guardian with them. Retrenchment came, and those who didn't like my boss, I am a loyalist. And they saw that this man has been loyal to Ediro. No. I was loyal to Ediro. I was loyal to Soji Onyison. Okay. Those are my bosses.
Soji Onyison is in Canada now.
Yes, he's in Canada.
Yes,
he's in Canada. Yeah. Great man.
Yes,
when I was retrenched and I left NTA, it was Soji Onyison who made it possible for me to start my independent production company.
Good.
I used his cameras. I used his editing facilities, free of charge. Free of charge. And he nurtured me. and I will never forget.
Yes.
He nurtured me, and I would never. So I started my independent production. I invented the first television fashion and beauty program on television.
What do you mean by invent?
Well, before then, there was no program there was no program on fashion and beauty on a weekly basis.
Locally produced?
Yes, locally produced.
Okay.
Now, okay, yes, in Nigeria.
Yeah.
On Nigeria television, yes.
Okay.
And so I had watched a few programs abroad, and I told myself, no, I can do this. So I began the program. It was called New Trends.
Yeah, New
and
Trends.
it became an overnight hit. Okay. And you know the Nigerian culture. The moment some people saw it, everybody began to do the same thing. You know? Everybody was, but it's on record that I was the first to start that.
Okay.
And I was airing on what I call staggered network.
Yes.
Okay. I was showing on Destiny TV in Kano. I was showing on NTA Abuja. I was showing on Clapperboard Television. I was showing on DBN, and I was showing on NTA2.
NTA2.
Yes.
That's quite an array.
Yes.
Yeah. And you were making money. Well, it's normal.
No. Unfortunately, I wouldn't say that I made money. I wouldn't say that I made money because those who came after me made a lot of money. Now, while they were using VHS for their own production, I refused to use VHS because those who taught me production
taught you pneumatic of the Superstars.
He was formerly with the Nigerian Television Authority. He studied drama at the University of Ife. After leaving NTA, Ime started his independent production company. He produced the first fashion and beauty show on Nigerian television called New Trends. It was a
low band. You know, there was low band and high band.
High band, yeah, sure.
I refused to use low band. And those who had high band camera were very expensive. So every money I made went into trying to make, and then I began to edit with Solar.
Yeah.
You know, Solar was the
was the high end.
Was the high end production outfit. I just wanted to be at the right place.
Yes.
You know, so I would say I made money. Yes, I made money. I was able to keep my family together and all that.
Yeah, but that's making money.
Yes.
Once your family is okay.
I also tried to apply for a TV license when it was deregulated. But I never got the license.
Yeah, that's the story of all of us. I mean, we did this. We tried this, we tried that, but it didn't happen. Now, let's look at the production terrain, even TV broadcast generally now. Technology has really stepped up and demystified a lot of
things.
Yes.
A lot of stress that we used to have before. These children do not have that anymore.
Yeah, but you mean the younger generation?
Yes.
They will fight you if you call them
children. But they're children now.
Yeah, well, there's the younger generation. They are our children, but then they are also our colleagues.
You know, they are our colleagues. Yes, I agree. I agree.
Yeah, so they don't have such. Again, what do you think that has done for creativity within the industry?
In terms of thinking through, I watch some television programs and I'm asking, do they have somebody vetting their programs before it goes on air? I listen to a broadcaster. I mean, you were on television. You were broadcasting.
Yes.
Even with your diction there, some of us will still quarrel as you didn't say it. Because before you go on air, you are trying to cross your T and dot your I's and say the right words, and the right way.
Yes.
I see people these days, they are not interested in that. They just say what they want to say and move on. And then hype it with all kinds of mannerisms, slangs, as we were growing up. We learned English.
Yes.
And and pronouncement of
pronunciation
of words.
Yes.
Listening to radio
Yeah.
and listening to them on television.
Yes.
I'm not sure that children learn from TV or radio these days because they are not. Most of them are not thinking through. But there are stations where you find a lot of people, a lot of the staff doing well, and that station where you have people who had gone through the meals. You know, I'm constantly on your channel.
Yeah, yeah.
And once there's a problem, you see, I call you.
Yeah, you do.
I want. My wife said, "Why are you always calling?" I hope he doesn't get angry. I said, "No, he's a professional. He's not going to get angry."
Sure.
You know, he knows
That's
that,
like a carryover of what we grew up on.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, but I can't say that to younger managing directors of other stations. They will get offended.
They may.
Yes.
They may. Get offended.
Okay. They may get offended. Yes. So, so the new technology, I would say, has made a few of them lazy. A few of them, not all of them, because there are still a lot of creative people on there.
Yes.
A lot of creative.
So it's like technology has made it easier to
For them.
produce.
Yes.
Technically high quality.
Yes.
Yes. Materials, maybe not necessarily so much depth, but there's also been a lot of depth.
In our time, you do not, where if you want your pictures to come out well, you work on your camera. Today, whether your camera is working very well or not, you can enhance your picture quality.
Oh, yes.
When you are editing.
Even your phones these days
your phone
will shoot high def.
High definition. So,
yes.
So the technology has upped the ante, and it's a good thing. My children are into production.
Yeah.
My daughter does a lot of production with her phone and little laptop.
Yes.
A
lot of them.
Yes.
One of my daughters too.
Yes.
Is heavily into production.
Yes. So she produced. I think about a few days ago, she had a client abroad who wanted. I said, why are they not doing that? She said, that is very expensive for her to do it there. So she's doing it with me.
We do it locally.
Yeah. So, production, the new invention in technology here has made it easy for a lot of them to work better.
Now let's look at the impact of new technology on new media, social media, and all the platforms through which they gain expression. In those days, there was nothing like that.
So you walk through.
But now there's so much freedom.
Yes.
And access. Do you think social media needs to be curtailed?
Absolutely.
Or regulated?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not.
So why? How then does society deal with it?
Let me say this to you. You know, even abroad, they used to regulate the media a lot. After a while, they couldn't do that anymore because as things evolved, it became difficult for them to even monitor it. How many millions are you going to monitor online? So, what we could do is to put restrictions to the kind of language that you use on public media.
Yeah.
The kind of pictures that you show on public media.
That
you can share. You can put a rule and say, if you must do nude or whatever, then it must be a closed circuit.
Yeah, but then, sorry to butt in, but then there are laws, defamation laws, there are other laws that guide the sharing of information and all that. Why should there be new regulation? Shouldn't just there be enforcement of that? Of the existing laws?
Who is going to enforce the law?
Whoever is aggrieved should go to court.
This word again.
It's happened.
This word again.
Yeah,
go to court.
To go to court. We would come to that because I know you are politically involved, right? Yes, you go to court.
Yes.
You don't have to how do you put it now? You don't have to say people can't say whatever they feel like saying. They must be ready to bear the consequences.
No. My point is this: if people go beyond the limits,
yes,
there are consequences. There are laws that you have said, but those who are supposed to implement those laws are lawbreakers themselves. And I'm asking, he who must come to equity must come with clean hands.
Yes.
And then you cannot choose and pick who you prosecute and how you prosecute them.
Yeah, there's a point in that.
And again, and I think that there's undue interference with some true, some not true. And thank God that there are platforms that helps you to know which story is true or which story is not true. Because once you subject it to those platforms, it just tells you it's fake. So, but not everybody knows that now.
That's it.
Yes, but once government start pushing a lie or the truth, a fact-checking a fact-checking platform. And I think I have 3 or 4 of them. Once I see a story, I just click, and I know it's a lie. Okay. So government can push that, while they are also trying to prosecute those who are not, But my problem is their choosing who to do that with and when to do it.
Okay, we're going to take a break now. When we're back, we'll continue with my guest, Ime James, who will share more ideas about using the media, social media, mainstream media, effectively in the course of developing the nation. Please stay tuned. Welcome back to Timeless Conversations. My guest is Ime James. He introduced Eliaship to us when he became a pastor. I will ask him about that later. But Ime will continue with his ideas on how to use or engage social media, the media generally, in developing our nation, in managing the excesses, especially of social media. It seems mainstream media is already streamlined and controlled, but social media, everybody's everywhere. The development of citizen journalism makes it possible for Leko to be going on the road. He sees something that just quickly snaps photographs or records the video, and then he posts, right? And within hours, the same thing is repeated, saying, happening right now in Lagos. And that's like about 6 hours after.
Yes.
So how do you curb that?
Let me start first by saying that many of the people that began to set the agenda for the regulation of television came from the traditional, not even mainstream, but traditional media, the NTA block, where you must, they didn't allow you to,
it was rigid.
Very rigid. I remember when LTVA started, LTVA became very creative, started doing creative things, and we would go to meetings and NTA and say, look, are you not seeing this thing? We can't be doing this. They said, no, they can't. I said, we can't be. We had to quarrel at production meeting all the time because we wanted to do something more creative, not hemmed in. And so these people from NTA now peopled the NBC. And that created a lot of problems. If you look at the NBC regulation, there's a need for regulation. But what you see there is an overkill. And that has given vent to social media. So while you're trying to regulate one bit, it breaks away into another bit. And you can't stop that. The social media is a global
It is.
It's a global village.
Phenomenon.
Yes,
Yeah.
and so it's going to be difficult for you to. I hear they want to ban Twitter. They want to. But when you abandon Twitter, people we were on Twitter doing what they were doing. You know, because there's always a way to break it.
Sure.
Okay, so what should we do? Let's go back to brass tacks. Say, look, allow the traditional media some more space. Okay, I'm going to talk about a station that was recently fined, and I think that was overdone. Okay, because the gentleman in question kept trying to caution the person. That was enough for you not to put that. Now, imagine that young man gets angry and his boss fires him. He goes on social media. He has a followership already.
Sure.
You can't stop him. You can't stop him. So what should we do?
Yes.
Let's be a little bit more careful in wielding the stick.
Yeah.
Okay? And then for the social media, put up rules and say, no, you can't go beyond this. You can't go you must not produce if you put things that engender national unity and cohesion.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Okay? And then you reward people who do that. So there should be a reward system where you reward such people and they are able to, once others see that they are getting rewards.
Yes.
For promoting national unity, for promoting responsible act on their media.
Yeah.
They will start gravitating towards that because everybody, yes, we want to make name, but we also want to make money.
Yeah, sure, certainly.
And you want to also have some measure of recognition. So can we introduce a reward system?
Okay.
Okay?
For compliance.
Is for compliance. So this punitive measure, it has not worked. You know, I always tell people that I am Okonogba Jesu. Now, what that means in English, simply a tout that accepted Christ. So, you know, what happened? My mother was tough. Tough.
Yes.
I leave that for later. But, you know, and the tougher she was with me, the tougher I became. So, I think, seriously, that if you put the reward system, it will help the people. It will help. If I get certification and all that for what I did, government gives me certification, Lagos State government gives me certification, you know, whatever state government gives me, where I'm giving certification for doing this, for doing that. And I am posting all my certificates everywhere. First, my buyers online want to come to me because they see that I have a name.
Yes.
Because your buyers are not buying you, they are buying your name.
Is the name.
They are buying your reach.
Yeah.
So if they are giving me certification every time, my reach will increase.
Certainly.
So can we try?
Okay.
Can we try a reward system?
Okay.
Rather than this punitive, you know,
just
slam them.
Punitive. Let's also have
yes.
some manner of
yes.
engagement.
I'm not saying throw away punitive measure because some people can go overboard sometimes.
There's a need for discipline.
There's a need for discipline. But then, can we play it down and play up the reward system?
Okay. Fair enough. Now, when you look at the situation in the country, someone like you, I know you grew up in Lagos.
Yes. I was born in Ibadan. I grew up in Mushin.
Okay.
I'm a Guru.
So you grew up, in fact, let's put it straight. You were born in Yoruba land, you grew up in Yoruba land.
Yes.
And part of your past activities included the you running for councillorship.
Yes, under the Unity Party of Nigeria.
And then you were member.
I formed the youth wing of the Unity Party of Nigeria in Bariga. You know, in the whole of Bariga Shomolu area. Okay, and I didn't make myself the head. I was the founder, but I made myself secretary of the youth wing.
Yes. Well, you were smart now.
Yes.
The secretary that controls the.
And so every last Friday of the month, we went to Park Lane, Baba Awolowo's place, where he was talking to us and teaching us how Nigeria can be re-engineered. You know, every time I talk about Awolowo, you know, we have messed up this country. How Nigerians can allow Awolowo die without ruling Nigeria? It hurts so much because I know I have met him as a young man. I've listened to him. If Awolowo were to rule Nigeria for 1 year, 1 year, it would have been, Nigeria would not be where we are.
Probably that was why even Emeka Ojukwu called him the best president Nigeria
because
never
he knew what we were. See, with all the shenanigans of the old political order, Awolowo going to jail, it was all because they were scared of him. They knew he was going to change the status quo. They knew he would not allow many of them. I'm not afraid to say it. The northern oligarchy, the status quo in the south, just didn't want to leave their feasting on the cake. And so they deprived the light that God sent to Nigeria. That's why I keep telling people. They say anybody who becomes government, president, is the making of God. I say, no, that's not true. That is not true.
But that's a contradiction of what your faith teaches.
No. The Bible said that all powers are of God. Yes, God can know about the power.
Okay.
But God may not approve the power.
But if he doesn't approve, if he doesn't approve, where is the person in power?
Listen, let me give you an example.
I'd like to.
Samuel was supposed to rule Israel under a theocratic government. Israel rejected him. Because they leave him. Was that good? It gave them what they wanted.
Without playing on semantics, from your answer, it was God. Because you said
it's not semantics.
No, you said God said
because God
leave
is
them.
Let me tell you, God is an impartial God. After what happened with Lucifer, God allowed man to start thinking and reasoning for himself. And it was in his process of not wanting to gag. You know, we were talking about gag before.
Gag, yes.
Angels were gagged. Angels were like soldiers, zombies. Worship. War. Worship. But it didn't work. So God decided not to be over protective. Man still failed. Are you getting what I'm trying to say?
I'm following you.
So man, and I always tell people that man is the architect of his trouble.
True.
So when people say, God, Ọlọ́run gbà wá, I say, Ọlọ́run ti gbà yín, ẹ̀yin kẹ́ gbára yín. You know, God has saved you. You are the one that must save yourself. Okay? So God allowed Saul to take over. Not because that was God's desire. Okay? So Saul was a permissible will. Not the perfect will of God. Are you following what I'm trying to say?
Fully.
Good.
Fully.
So I say this, that all powers that come are not necessarily of God.
Okay.
They have, see, let me give you an example. If somebody were to kill everybody, shoot down everybody, create problem everywhere, and became the president of Nigeria, you know he did all that.
Yeah.
You know the person rigged the election. You know the person displaced things. And he won.
Yeah.
Is God involved in deceit?
We're
Is
going-
God involved in deceit?
I think we'll have to set another time to go fully in this, because there is some level of contradiction. Okay, would anything happen without God's knowledge?
No, nothing.
So
He
then how
knows
can
the-
we
God
how
knows-
can we now say he doesn't know of it?
God knows the beginning from the end,
Yeah.
and the end from the beginning.
Yes.
But God has also given man the power and the authority
Yes.
to choose.
So at what point then
Deuteronomy chapter 30.
do we absolve God of that knowledge and permission?
No. Adam blamed God. God decided, okay, you make una do as I want. Listen, Adam blamed God and said, God, the wife that you gave to me, okay?
Said the woman.
Yes, the woman that you gave to me, okay?
Yes.
All right. Now, God can be absolved from this because we wanted our own choices. And so God allowed us to have our choices.
In other words, whatever choices we made, we must be ready to
Bear the
own up to
consequences.
it and bear the consequences.
That's right.
Okay, so now, politically, aren't we bearing the consequences of our choices? For instance, you talked of the Unity Party of Nigeria.
Yes.
I recall that in those days, all members of the party contributed
We were contributing money.
to the running of the party.
Yes.
Or for the running of the party.
Yes.
These days, all the political parties don't have a verifiable source of funding.
You don't draw me back to,
I have to.
I
We
went,
have
into,
to keep
I went into a mood when we started talking about our
Don't worry, we'll
Yes.
get out of it again.
Yes. Now, the point is,
Yes.
I say that a man came before his time. There was no party that was doing that. Even the Talakawa party led by Aminu Kano, we're not doing that.
Yeah.
Okay? A few people were putting money together to give to Aminu Kano to run the party. Awolowo said, you are one of the founders of this party. Okay? We were paying weekly, our ward meetings were weekly.
Yes.
We were paying weekly meetings. And my money.
Money, yes, contributing money.
I remember in those days, I had to go convert all the prostitutes in all those areas because I saw that policemen were always harassing them. So I told them, oh yeah, come to party, you are a member of UPN. My strategy to bring in members into the... And they got their cards and all that. So anytime police come to harass them, to take them away, you are prostitute. I go to the federal police station and say, you must release them. This is political harassment. And they released them. And because of that, those people were paying money. So the party had money to run. And during the councillorship primaries, for instance, the winner was not, I won, but the winner was not because he had money. And at the time I was talking to you, I was still in NTA. Not because I had money, but because my strategy brought in a lot of people. Okay? So the point I'm making is that this man made it easy for us to run a political party devoid of money bags who capture the soul of the party.
Of the party.
And decides what becomes of the party.
So today, how do we apply such a strategy? towards freeing the party from the overarching influence of money bags?
We are almost too far gone.
Does that mean we will leave it like that?
No. I said we are almost. I use the word almost.
Yes.
We are almost too far gone. Poverty is a weapon to deal with. Listen, poverty is a weapon to deal with the poor.
I also read that it is a state of mind.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a state of mind. Yes. But those who weaponize poverty know that poverty is a state of mind. So one man of God said that the poor is wicked. Okay? Why is he wicked? Because he wants to get. So he does anything to get what he wants. Once you make it difficult for people to have, you can't tell them to come contribute to party purse. Because there are people who will tell them, don't worry, I will pay for you. And we have become used to people giving us.
Giving.
That's why I said we're almost too far gone.
Okay.
So, but it can be changed. The rules can change it.
Yeah.
Just like the beavers was expected to be a game changer. Indeed, a game changer. It did. We will improve on it. Okay? Litigations and all that will make us improve on it.
Yes.
Because let's not throw away the baby and the bathwater.
The bathwater, yeah.
It already said something one day, and I don't want to mention the name of the state.
No, there's no name.
Yes. But the person, that governor came to that state and changed the way the IGR comes in. Because he himself, he knows what to do.
Yeah.
So he came in there and changed it. And so the IGR of that state improved. It improved. And it's still improving.
Yeah.
Okay? So, going forward, get straight-minded politicians who know the crooked ways and to tell you what to do with the beavers. I know what to do with these beavers and it will work.
Okay. All right. Thank you. We'll take another break on the program. When we're back, Ime James continues sharing his ideas with us, and we'll be going to his childhood in Lagos and the situation we're facing now in the country. Stay tuned. Welcome back. It's still our program, Timeless Conversations. Ime James is still my guest, and let's return to our discussion. You grew up in Lagos. You went to school, primary, secondary, and all that here in Lagos.
That in a Canem.
Okay.
And rich. To go to